music serves as a universal language that connects people on a profound, intangible level. But how do musicians do this? I'm Warren Buchholz, jazz brand manager at WUSF, and I'm on a mission to find out. Meet Dave Koz. He's an American saxophonist, composer, and radio host. Over the past 30 years, he's earned 9 Grammy nominations and has performed with artists like Celine Dion and Stevie Nicks, just to say the very least. He currently released a new album with his friend Bob James and is currently on tour with his Dave Koz and Friends Summer Horns concert, which stops at Ruth Eckerd Hall on July 18th. Here's my conversation with Dave Koz. I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for taking some time to meet with me and talk about Summer Horns.
My pleasure. Thank you.
First question I always like to ask, who inspired you to want to play the saxophone or get into the life of music?
Well, those are two different questions for me. Inspiration, probably the number one for saxophone was David Sanborn, who I grew up listening to and admiring, and he became a good friend and a mentor eventually. But, you know, I, as a kid, found his music and just wore it out, practiced along with it. But in terms of just the people that that showed me that I could have a career, there were two of those guys that were kind of like I kind of look at them as those bumpers on a pinball machine they bump into and they send you off into another direction. That was Bobby Caldwell, the singer Bobby Caldwell who passed, and a guy named Jeff Lorber. Both of those guys came around in the mid 80s for me and kind of like shaped me and pushed me into a area that I didn't even know was possible for myself. So those pretty important people in my life.
Very cool. Very cool. And throughout your life, you've received 9 Grammy nominations, 11 number one album on the Billboard 100. You've received the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. You've performed with people like Celine Dion and Stevie Nicks. Has there been a moment to you that has been the most memorable? Is there like something that's really stuck with you this entire career?
I think I've had a lot of really wonderful moments in getting a chance to be in the same space as legends and stuff like that. But I think when I was able to introduce my parents to the President of the United States, who was the president at that time, I think that was probably maybe above all else, just because like what I did for a living, playing the saxophone, allowed me to introduce my parents to a president. That was pretty tough to beat, I should say.
What would you say has been the most fulfilling part of your career? What has stood out?
Warren, it's like for me, you know, I've been doing it for like 40 years now. And so what keeps me coming back to it is not so much that it's my profession and livelihood. It's more about like the power, harnessing like the power of music to heal. You know, music is a really humbling thing for me. I've seen it for so many years now, how it can bring people together and how it can move people in a way that no other media can. So I've been given a gift that I feel like I need to share it, and now seems more important than ever to be music. Yeah,
definitely has this, like you said, power to bring together communities, to heal, to go to emotions that people perhaps would not ever go to begin with. And yeah, just seeing what you've done over these past 40 years has been really awesome and humbling, so to speak.
Thank you. That's very sweet.
And,
Thank you.
and before we go on, actually, you talked about David Sanborn, and my first experience with David Sanborn was the Lethal Weapon series.
Oh, yeah.
That's what got me into David Sanborn and finding out more about his music and going on from there.
Yeah, he was all over the place. He got his sound out there and on amazing iconic records where he played the solo, lots of television stuff and lots of movie scores, as you mentioned. So yeah, he was all over.
Before we get to Summer Horns 2025, you recently released an album with Bob James, Just Us. Could you kind of tell me more about how that collaboration happened?
That was not necessarily an album that we were making. I had asked Bob, who's a legendary pianist, Bob James, to be one of the guests on. I host cruises, a couple cruises a year, and we had one last September in Italy. And I invited him to be a part of the lineup, the musical lineup. And he said yes, under one condition, playfully, that we record a couple of songs for those guests. And he said, come to my house in northern Michigan, which I did do. And we spent a few days. We recorded those songs. It went really, really well. It was just us, just piano and saxophone in his living room, recording live. And it was so exhilarating. It was like intoxicating hearing our music, his piano and my saxophone, in like very pure, without anything competing for attention. And we said, should we do a couple more? And we did a couple more. And then I came back about 6 weeks later and we recorded 5 more. And then he came back to my house in Los Angeles for the last 2. And before we knew it, we had this album, which is he's released a ton of music, and so have I over the years, but we've never made anything even remotely like this. It's something this intimate, something this communicative. It's very raw. There's no net. There's no place to hide. It's like, coming face to face with all your imperfections and getting comfortable with that. So I learned so much on this project. And then we went out and did like 8 shows, just the 2 of us, which terrified me, but also was one of the most exciting things I've ever done live. So it was great. It was a wonderful project.
What would you say was the most challenging part of putting together this album, through recording or any of that?
I think that the key is for both of us was to rely on our musicianship to carry us through some pretty perilous, tough situations where, when you're making a record and you have all these parts that you can put on, and now with digital recording, you can have 1,000 tracks if you wanted to, but every time that you add something, it makes everything else smaller. And so here were our instruments, these 2 instruments, bare, and you could hear every little click on the saxophone and every little spit thing from the reed. And so I think for me, the biggest challenge was to get comfortable with all of that, to get comfortable with imperfection, as I mentioned.
It's a beautiful album. I was able to listen to it before we got on this call, and just you can tell the love that was put into it, for sure.
It's very special to Bob and me, and we both put all of ourselves into it. And for that, at this point in my life, Warren, I'm just interested in pushing myself, having fun, finding out new areas of creativity that I didn't know were there in my own musical ability. And so this is what I want to do now. At this stage in my life, I want to be challenged and pushed and get really excited about new music.
And go on adventures.
And go on adventures. I'm not sure what the next one's going to be, but that's what I'm into mostly.
Let's turn now to Summer Horns 2025. And this has got a powerhouse group going on with Marcus Anderson, Jeff Bradshaw, Marcel Anderson, Leo P., Evan Taylor. That's a great lineup. Can you tell me a little bit more about this concert and how it came together?
The Summer Horns has been a project of mine for going back to 2013. We had our first album. It was, the whole idea of it was started as a tribute really to the music that my generation of horn players grew up listening to, which were all the horn bands of Earth, Wind and Fire in Chicago and Tower of Power and Kool and the Gang and Ohio Players. And, list goes on and on. There's like the heyday of these horn bands that made music that still to today, sounds so great. So we wanted to do a project that sort of celebrated that music. And it was quite successful. And then we did another album. We did 2 tours behind that album. Then we did another album with 2 tours, and then it kept morphing. And I think this is the 5th incarnation of Summer Horns. And I wanted to do something that we'd never done before, which was have a full horn section. So baritone saxophone, trombone, 2 saxophones, and a trumpet. And we have a wide selection of younger artists that are doing that are these high energy, incredible talents. Leo P., who's an internet sensation already. Evan Taylor, a young trumpet player just starting out from Indiana University, who's in his 20s. Leo's in his 30s. We got the Anderson brothers, Marcel, who's a singer, and Marcus, a saxophone player. They're in their early 40s. Jeff Bradshaw's in his early 50s, and I'm in my early 60s. So it's like this really interesting cross-section of ages and generations, but we all share one thing, and that is this love of this era of music. So our tour this year is billed as the ultimate summer party, and that's exactly what it's going to be. Most, if not every song, and it's just, you're going to go and put the outside world out of your mind for a couple of hours and just enjoy this music. That's our job this summer.
Do you have a favorite moment from the show?
Well, we are not yet in rehearsals. We'll be in rehearsals starting on Friday. So I'll have a better idea in a couple of days of what my favorite moment is. But I have a feeling, looking at this set list, there's these big medleys. There's one medley that is all 1970s songs, like it just goes pop. It's probably got 15 songs in this medley, and it just is so crazy, intricate, and fun. And I love watching the audience's response to all these songs when they come up, even just little blips of them.
You've gone from like a duo, that collaborative effort, to now this entire horn section. What is that process like for you when it comes to collaborating with many people?
I think it's just about putting on a different hat. Both aspects. You're right. It's kind of funny when you look at them side by side, one after the other. One is very intimate and small and just like precious, and the other is like blast. It's a total musical blast. And it's funny to put them side by side, but I guess that's my life, going from one thing to the next and putting another hat on and just saying, okay, what is this one all about? And that's been kind of the thread, the story of my musical life, which has just been really all about collaboration, different types of collaborators that help me to not get stale and always be pushing and trying new things and taking the audience with us, because that's one thing that I've also noticed, Warren, over the years, and what I'm so grateful for is that the audience, the jazz appreciating audience, or the instrumental music appreciating audience, they'll go with you. They're very loyal, stay with you for forever, as long as you're continually doing stuff that they find interesting and not getting, not the same thing over and over and over. So that's always been my goal, is to just keep it really interesting and keep it moving.
Well, I look forward to seeing you on July 18th at Ruth Eckerd Hall. I know it's a venue you play at a lot, and it's always
love it there. Ruth Eckerd has been like a home. I'm a Californian, live in Los Angeles, but born and raised, by the way. But Ruth Eckerd Hall, it feels like another home every time that we come there, and we probably played there, I don't know, at least 20 times, at least. Maybe even more over the years. And it's always a great audience, and it's always a music appreciating audience. And the place is so beautiful.
Yeah, there's not a bad seat in that house. But thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciate your time.
Nice to talk with you, Warren. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening. Be sure to check out WUSFjazz.org to watch local performances, find jazz events throughout Florida, listen to curated Spotify playlists, and a whole lot more. WUSFjazz.org. Today's audio was recorded over Zoom. Production assistance by Chandler Balcom, Adam Derbyshire, and Aranza Romero. The audio was edited by Scott Wackler. I'm Warren Buckles, host. Studio Sessions is a product of WUSF and is sponsored by Community Foundation Tampa Bay, with support from the Gobioff Foundation, the Palladium, and by you. Thank you for your support. Learn more about jazz and Arts Axis Florida by visiting our website at WUSFjazz.org. Copyright 2025 WUSF.